welcome back to the weekly real estate roundup. I am your host, Bill Clifford, along with Ray Gutierrez. Here to
Howdy,
talk
everybody.
Looking forward to discussing everything that's going on in the world of real estate this week.
Right. So there's been a lot of things happening in the news. And with some of those things happening in the news, maybe some of the bigger economic news hasn't been quite on the top of everybody's minds, but there have been some big indicators that are showing that we are in for a bit of a shift here, signaling things like recession. And even though people hear about recession and everybody gets kind of scared, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad for the housing market. There are some things that happen during the course of recession that we can expect, like interest changes to interest rates. That it just means change, and with change comes different opportunities depending on what it is that you are trying to do. So, what have you been seeing going on in the economy lately, Bill?
So this week we've had a few things come up. So early in the week, the OPEC announced that they are going to cut back the amount of oil that they release for export. So that means that oil prices are going to go up, gas prices are going to go up. What that in turn does is it slows down. We've been seeing the inflation rate come down. Well, it may not come down as quickly if gas prices are up and oil prices are up. So for interest rates, that's not a good thing. We want the inflation rate to slow. On the flip side of that, a few things have also happened. The job numbers were released. There are a couple of different jobs reports. One of them was the amount of private sector jobs added. They were expecting about 210,000 jobs, and they got 145,000. So that's not good. And then the other one, the other reports showed that job openings are at a 21-month low. So the reason that the Federal Reserve has been so quick to continue raising rates and to talk about their belief that they can raise the rates without causing a recession has been the jobs numbers. That's been what they've been hanging their hat on is that, if the economy was in such bad shape, well, why is the unemployment rate so low? Why are the job numbers good? Well, the unemployment rate is kind of a lagging indicator. It's typically the way this goes is you'll see the unemployment rate at near all-time lows, and then it starts to turn around. And once the rate starts going up on unemployment, then we move our way towards recession. So, and when it comes to recession, that's one of those things that will bring down interest rates. So we've got two opposing forces. We've got the inflation from the increased oil prices. We have fear of recession. The other piece on the recession is that the yield curve has been inverted. You may have heard about this before, but it's a little confusing, but it's a very accurate indicator of recession. Every recession for the past 50 plus years has been preceded by an inverted yield curve. What that means is that the rate of the 3-month treasury bond is higher than the rate of the 10-year treasury bond. So think about it this way. If you were to go to the bank and say, okay, I've got $100, I'm going to give it to you for 3 months. You would expect, or you have an option to give it for 10 years. You would expect that if you let the bank hold on to your money for 10 years before your bond matures, that you would get a higher return, right? You don't have access to that money for 10 years, especially compared to something that's only locked up for 3 months. Well, the 3-month treasury bond is trading at 4.827%. The 10-year treasury bond is trading at 3.309. So it's about a 1.5% difference. And obviously, that throws things out of whack. It's a part of what happened with Silicon Valley Bank and some of the other banks is that they invested in these long-term bonds that they're not going to get any return out of them if they sell them early. They've had to sell some of them early to increase their liquidity. And once they sell those bonds, then it gets reported that they've sold for a loss, and then everybody freaks out. You get run on some of those banks. So that inverted yield curve is another indication that we're probably headed towards recession. I guess, one thing to talk about is what that means in general, right? I mean, in any market, you have opportunities, and you have some people are going to come out ahead, some people aren't. And I really, the biggest fear with this is going to be inflation, and it's going to be jobs, right? If we start having a lot of people lose their jobs, that's when we see a lot of real world hurt. Recession usually means the stock market is not going to be doing as well either. That can hurt people too, especially if you're at retirement age and trying to start living off of your investments. We saw that in 2008, where most people, as long as they were able to keep their money in the market, recovered from the recession. But if you're 70 years old and you're drawing on that money, and it was $200,000, now it's $100,000, that's where it gets scary. So, our hope is that all of you out there are opportunistic with the coming recession rather than victims.
Right. It reminds me the movie The Big Short, right? Great movie about 2008 housing crash. And the whole premise of that film is that 99% of the people out there that were analyzing these stocks and the market and all of that all thought that it was going to keep on going forever. And there were just a handful of people out there who said, no, it's not. And then they placed a bet that they were right and that everybody else was wrong. And they ended up making a lot of money because of that. There's a scene in that movie where a couple of the guys realize at this point in the film that they are right and that they are going to hit it big on this bet, and they're going to make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, right? And they're really, really happy. I think they're in Vegas or something. With them in that scene is a character played by Brad Pitt. And he's been on this ride with them, right? And he's been advising them, but he's also like a real sort of pragmatist about the whole thing. And as he was watching these guys get ecstatic over the fact that they're right and the US economy is about to collapse. Right. He reminds them that for every percentage point that the economy shrinks, I forgot what the exact quote was, but a certain amount of people die, right? Because the economy shrinks, poverty increases. Poverty, of course, leads to bad health outcomes, and all of that. We can sort of see where that goes. So in a capitalist society, there are winners and losers. Now, in this conversation, we're not talking about whether that is right or whether it is wrong. It just is what it is in the country that we live in. And we both have really sort of complicated feelings about this stuff, but we both also understand that that's a system that exists right now. And our job is to advise people about the reality of the system that exists and what it is that they can and cannot do given the current circumstances of what's going on in that system. And what's going on in the news and what you're saying right now is that there is likely to be a recession, which means that there will be negative outcomes for many people, hopefully not too many, right? Hopefully that there's, solutions that arise that are able to keep people afloat. That being said, that means that there's opportunity in the real estate market for people who aren't well positioned. The one personal note that I'll make on that is my hope is that there are people out there that we can help that are well positioned, that are just regular people who sort of found themselves in the right place at the right time, and not so much, bigger banks that are just waiting for things to fall down, and hedge funds and stuff like that that are come in and buy all of the houses and do things like that. We're
Yeah.
hoping that there are, regular people out there who have been waiting to buy a property, and if they can find something that now has become affordable to them, then that turns out to be a good outcome for them.
Yeah. Well, we should certainly not have the same kind of crash that we had before. That is a, once in a should be a once in a lifetime kind of thing. And it was based on, you talking about The Big Short, and in that movie they also show the mortgage guys, the subprime mortgage guys, and they're like, oh yeah, I got this guy money without doing it,
Right.
and my first job was at a subprime mortgage office, and the movie was not that far off. It was pretty sketchy. They're giving loans to people with 500 credit score. It was unreal, who they were giving loans to. And a lot of people lost their homes, but a lot of people were able to buy homes who never could afford them in the first place, because they were just being given this money. So this time around, my thought is that, if somebody loses their job and they can't afford to continue making their mortgage payment, they should still be able to sell their house, not being foreclosed on. They should be able to sell and still have some equity in that home. Our inventory is so tight right now that my thought is that what this might do is loosen up the inventory, keep prices from rising too much. I don't think they're really going to dip, but that's kind of the idea. And if you are well positioned and your job is secure and you've managed to save some money over the course of the past few years that have kind of been a boom time for a lot of people, you should be in a good spot to be able to get into a nice home, and that's what we're here for, just to help with that. One other thing that I want to talk about, actually. There's a new program here in California. It's from the California HFA, Housing Financing Association or something, but it's a state agency, and it's called the Dream for All program. And what they do is they're offering down payment assistance. Usually with these down payment assistance mortgages, they'll give you 3%, so you can put a down payment on an FHA loan or something like that. Well, this one, they're giving people 20% to put down on a house. It's a conventional loan. So they give you the 20%. You can use some of that 20% to pay for closing costs. I mean, it's kind of a game changer. It's a fixed interest rate. Right now it's 6.125. That could change, but that's where it's been this week. And what happens is when you refinance the home or sell the home, at that point you have to pay back the 20% that you were given to buy the house. And you're going to pay back 20% plus appreciation. So if you bought the home for $1 million, and when you refinance it appraised for $1.1 million, or you sold it for $1.1 million, then, if it was $1 million, they would have given you 200,000. So now you're going to be giving them back 220,000, which is 200,000 plus that 10% appreciation that you received. So they're sharing in your profits. But it's a great way for somebody to get into a house if they don't have any money to put down. So call me on that.
20% down payment assistance.
Correct.
Meaning,
20% down
is there
payment.
an upper limit on that?
Yeah. So there's an income limit. You can't earn more than $180,000 per year, at least around here. I believe it varies by county. The same with, it's a conventional loan, so the conventional loan limits, which are different per county, do apply. And as far as the limit, yeah, it's going to be based on conventional loans. So the conventional loan limit here in Los Angeles County is $1,089,000. So if you were going to be, I suppose I probably should look a little closer, but that would indicate that you should be able to get about 220,000 on top of that. So $1.3 million-ish, which.
So it helps people looking for homes in that price range.
Correct. Yeah, in the conventional price range. If it's a jumbo loan, that's not going to work. But you're also able to contribute an additional 10% of your own funds if you have that. Which helps bring, it wouldn't even do much for the interest rate, but it just gives you more equity in the home.
So that's great. It 20% is a lot, especially when we're talking about, a $200,000 down
Right.
payment.
Right. Now there is a maximum amount of funds that the program has in total, and I think it's 300 million or something. It sounds like it's probably going to dry up pretty quick, but definitely something to look into if you've been wanting to buy a house but have not had the money to put down.
So jump on that.
Hmm.
For people who are in that position, jump on that. Cool. Switch gears here for a minute. It's sort of on the same topic, but in terms of, you know, I'm working with AI tools all the time, right? And I am really, really deep into working with things like Chat GPT and building applications on top of them, and constantly looking at what's going on in that space. And you know, as we and may have talked about this before, but as we see, things like the economy is going down, right? That kind of stuff. Um, what we're also seeing is like the growth of technology is really, really ramping up in a way that
Right.
has never happened before.
Right.
Has
Right.
never ever happened before in
And
ways
these
that
these
we
are these
can't
are
even
other
predict.
definitely other factors that are going to affect our world in ways that we can't predict, that most people probably aren't even trying to handicap. You know.
It reminds me of the previous recession. There were a lot of people that were, out of a job and all of that, right? But there were also a lot of people who really sort of capitalized on that time to leverage some specialized skills that they had that were became really in demand. A lot of stuff having to do with web development, graphic design, and things like that, right? Back in 2008, 2009. And I remember back then there were, people who were getting jobs at startups because as, the economy collapses, there's a bunch of new problems that need to be solved, right? So new companies are born that come along to solve those problems. And a lot of people got good jobs because they really had the right skills at the right time to serve that market. In this particular market, what I think is going to happen, especially as we're hearing that AI is going to replace a lot of people, it's also going to make many people way, way, way more productive and way more valuable.
Yeah.
So for people out there who are, afraid of a recession, I really encourage them to start jumping on AI tools because they're pretty easy to learn for a lot of people. They come in multiple languages. Like ChatGPT supports, I think, 90 languages,
Wow.
right? Yeah, it's really, 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 really good on that front. Um, and there are going to be there's going to be a demand out there for people who really understand how to use these tools to help people who don't, to help
So what are
professionals
the
and businesses who don't know how to use them.
what are the being that you spend a lot of time on this, for somebody who's playing with Chat GPT, who's starting to mess around with AI, give them some tips for how to utilize it well. I'm feel like an analog person, so I get on there, I play with it and ask it questions, and it's really interesting, and it's not hard to use. It seems to be about asking the right questions and then also thinking about applying it when there's an opportunity to apply it, which is just a restructuring of your brain, and how you think of it. But tell us more about some specifics that you can apply that will make it more effective.
So, I think that, and we're seeing this play out amongst the big tech companies, right? Google, Microsoft. Like it really is going to be the new way that we search for information is going to be through the filter of AI. And we're going to start to search for information in a conversational way. So, for example, we all use Google all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got a question, you get on Google, you start to look for the answer. The information that you get is usually pretty good information, but it's not always like the right answer for the question that you have specifically. The question that you have specifically is really tailored to your own personal situation, and nobody's situation is exactly like somebody else's. There's always different things, and you know this as a mortgage broker, right? Everybody that comes in that needs to get a mortgage or needs to refinance their house, they're all in completely different situations. It's very rare where you get somebody who just like has 20% down, an 800 credit score. They know the house that they want to buy, and that house is perfect for this scenario, and it all just lines up like that, right?
It's very true. It's very true. And if AI is going to start taking mortgage jobs, it's going to be the jobs for those people.
So,
yeah.
What the way to use this stuff is the way that you think about like typing things into Google, but having a conversation with Google, where Google now understands the previous question that you asked it, and you're now like, you get an answer and you then ask it more questions, dig
Right.
deeper,
It's an active
into
conversation.
that thread. Exactly. It's a conversational search. And that's the way to really approach it. I imagine you had access to, pretend we're talking about lawyers, right? Because Chat GPT 4 just passed the bar exam with like a 90%, right?
Right. I heard
So
this.
imagine like you are able to sit down and have a lawyer like respond instantly to all of your questions, right? And you've got like some big legal problem that you're facing, right? Whatever it is. Let's say you're, trying to deal with a trust. Instead of the way that you would work with Google is you would have one question like, how do I amend a trust, right? And it'll give you some articles on how to amend a trust, and then you're going to read those articles and you're like, okay,
Try to apply it to your situation. Yeah.
yeah. What you would do with ChatGPT is you would go, I need to amend this trust and I need to do it in this amount of time, and here are all the people involved, and these are the circumstances, and it might be challenging because this person doesn't want it to happen, and all of that, right? Like, give me a plan to deal with this. ChatGPT will understand the question that you ask and then give you a plan that's personalized for you and how to deal with that. And then you can go, hey, number 4 on that plan, tell me more about that. How do I do that? Like tell me, and you can just dig and dig and dig and keep asking questions as if you had that professional who, you aren't paying by the hour, who is never going to get tired, who you don't have to have any sort of personal relationship, be friendly to.
You don't have to worry about offending it. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about offending it. They're going to be available 24/7, right? 365. They're always there, and they're always just going to work and give you answers super quickly that are tailored to whatever question. And then you're like, actually, maybe I was wrong. Maybe like now the circumstances have changed, right? Actually, now it's like this, and this person now supports it. But here's a new challenge that has come up, right? How do we adjust the plan? Oh, no problem. Here's the plan adjusted for what it is that you just said, right? And just keep working and digging and digging and digging. You can push and you can push and you push, and you can push it in all sorts of different directions, whether it be, like for real estate, I want to buy a house, but I don't have enough money yet, but I'm really interested in this area, in this city. What should I do? Who should I talk to? Give me a plan to start doing that, right? And it'll give you that plan. And then again, you can ask detailed questions about anything in that plan. So it's super helpful. And the way that it's the most helpful is that you can just keep digging and digging and digging, and it's never ending. Like, it's always going to come back with relevant information that is like in a conversational way, right? Relevant to the questions that you're asking and the context that you are approaching it from. And it's going to have usually really, really good answers because its knowledge base is massive.
Right. Now you've just I don't know if you saw me taking a note there, but I've got a spoiler alert. I'm in the process of getting my licensing set up in Washington so I can help all my friends in Seattle and beyond up there. But running into some roadblocks with the Secretary of State registering the corporation and all of that. And see if Chat GPT can help me
I bet you it can.
get some of the things that I need to do. Yeah, I bet it probably can too. So that's again, that's like resetting my brain. Every time I talk to you about this, I think of something else I can use it for. One other question I have for you about that though is, are you able to source does ChatGPT like give you a source for their information, or is it always going to be?
Sometimes
I've heard it's not always right, and you need to be aware of that. Do
you
they give
do.
you the source?
So one thing to remember is that ChatGPT is in beta right now, so it's not considered to be a finished product.
Mhm.
And also, for most people, they're starting to roll this out on a waitlist basis, but it's not connected to the updated version of the internet. It's trained up until September of 2021, so it doesn't have information beyond that date.
Mhm.
But it's still a massive amount of information before that. So when you're talking
Sure.
about things that you don't need like current updated information on, but just general concepts, history, whatever, that's all there.
Mhm.
It is occasionally incorrect, right? And you
Mhm.
can, so it's important for you the same way that you would talk to any person, right? Even if you were talking to a lawyer, right? They're not always right either.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's important for you to think critically about this stuff and to, use your best judgment and go like, that doesn't sound right. Then go maybe find some information. But the great thing about it is, if you find information that is correct, that contradicts what ChatGPT said, you can just copy paste that information into the conversation that you're having. And
Mhm.
it will then go, oh, sorry, I was wrong. And it will then integrate that new information into its thinking about all of the things that you've been talking about. Like,
Wow.
actually, Chat GPT, you're right about most of this stuff, but this little bit is not correct. This changed last year and you're not aware of that yet. Chat GPT will say, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me now update everything else based on what it is that you just told me. And here's the now contextually correct information.
So it's willing to admit it's wrong.
Yep.
Maybe ChatGPT should run for president.
Hey, President GPT. What should we do?
How do you
That's a whole
stop
other
an
can of worms.
insurrection?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that are really afraid of AI. Making an AI president, I think, would make them more afraid.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's do we want Terminator 2 or
Right.
is that but yeah. No,
So that's my tip for this one is these tools are incredible. They are incredible. And I think, while we are in for a rough patch here, just because we're, dealing with these massive economic forces, there's going to be incredible innovation that comes. And rather than be afraid of it or resist it, get on it and learn it and use it to, capitalize on these opportunities that are going to present themselves. Give it the scenario that is arising, the economy's in recession, this is happening, that's happening. Here are my own personal circumstances, right? There's this program that you just mentioned that has a 20% down payment assistant. Give it all that information and then have it say, now, what do you think? Give me some options and how I can, make the best out of the next 6 months, you
yeah.
know? And it's going to help you think of things that you probably weren't aware of, that because it's connected to so much information that it's just going to be like, hey, you can do this, you can do that, and you can use this for that. And then you're going to walk away from that going, wow, that was like, I just talked to an amazing consultant who mapped out a life plan just for me. That's
Right.
relevant for me. And that's what it's really, really good for, whether it be real estate, whether it be in all sorts of, basically any topic or subject, all the way down to writing computer code and building applications,
Right.
right? It can do all of that stuff. So, use it, learn it, get used to it, because you can probably help you, whether it be in real estate or something else, get your next deal, avoid some trouble, right? That's always
Yeah.
really good. Like, help you think of things that you should look out for. And I think it's going to be really interesting times.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that is for certain, is that the times are always interesting. There's always stuff going on and changing and ups and downs. And, I really do think, I'm looking forward to, honestly, some of the opportunities that should come with the economy slowing down a little bit. It's always a little bit tough for us in in the real estate world, is because if if nobody has any buying power, they're not buying houses. It slows it down. It can be hard to get ahead of, but there's going to be deals out there. There's going to be opportunities. We talked about Frogtown last week. I kick myself about that one always. Every time I go over there for a coffee or something, it's super hip and cool.
Right.
And the houses are so expensive, So just got to keep your head on a swivel. And then when you think back to 2008 and what came out of that, there's always lots of learning. There's always lots of growth. There's always lots of, lots of things that happen. I mean, honestly, some of those years after the crash were some of the best of my life. So, nothing to get down about. Just need to understand that, things are changing. And if you find yourself in a tough spot, there are millions of ways you can turn to, at the very least, gain some perspective. If not,
That's right.
If not, make a boatload of money on real estate or something else.
Yep. Just ask the robot, and the robot will tell you what to do.
Right. Maybe that's what it is. The key to surviving a recession. Ask Chat GPT.
That's right. All right. Well, that's it for today. Until next time, howdy, and y'all have a good weekend.
All right. Adios, everybody.
Bye.